Raiders, welcome. Today is a very special. Excuse me. I'm so excited I can't even speak. Today's a very special stream. Usually, right above my head is a portfolio slideshow of my humble woodcuts. But today, we're looking at the secret art of Dr. Seuss. We're gonna do an artist study. So usually, you can find me here doing watercolors, woodcuts, stuff like that. But not today. This was redeemed by Point of Fable. If you accumulate enough channel points, then you can redeem them for an artist study stream. And this is Point's favorite artist. And it's an artist who I hadn't really looked at beyond back when I was a teacher. We used to read, you know, Pop on Pop and all that to the ESL kids. But I never really looked at his work outside of that context. And so I'm grateful to Point for this redemption, because it's been really fun looking at these. And I picked 5 of them to study today. I don't know if we'll get through all 5 of them or not, but that's the idea. So I'm going to do some like thumbnail compositional breakdowns, and then I'll do some swatches of the palette and probably do some detailed drawings of certain parts of these. So I think it'll be a fun time. So let's see. This one, 3 things. Oh, also, if any of you want to draw along, I invite you to. The images are here, also in the Discord. In my channel, I posted them. And if anybody notices anything, because this is a study, so the idea of this is to deconstruct and figure out figure out the secrets of the good doctor. So if any of you has any insights to any of these, please speak up in the chat. I'd be very interested in everybody else's thoughts. I gave these a sort of a cursory look over in preparation. And right off the bat, the thing that speaks to me, given my aesthetic, is the flat black background on a lot of these. I really like that. I guess that's why it's after dark. We got another raid. What a day. So I got these. These are from the website, Dr. Seuss's website. A lot of foresight he had. You know, he was creating art in the first half of the 20th century, and he managed to get a website together. I'm very impressed. Let's see. The thing I noticed about this, oh yeah, I like that the bottom edge here, excuse me, like he has the hard line all the way around, but then his bottom edge here is defined by his foliage for the most part. It's a nice, always nice when artists do that. And let's see, so in this one, I think I want to get a little bit more in depth on these bushes in the background in just a second, but I was noticing all the big round curve shapes, except on his animals. The bodies are big round curves, but like the legs are kind of jagged, pointy things. And I kind of like that contrast that he's got in his animals, at least in his whatever this beast is called, these deer or whatever his creatures are. Got these 2 birds up here. I wonder if he uses straight ink for his blacks. I think he does Point. So like this one is ink and watercolor. So I imagine that he uses the ink straight out of the bottle for the background. And then I'm guessing white ink on top. A thing I was noticing about at least a lot of the ones that I chose is the something that I do actually, which it made me very happy to see it in his work, is he often has a big long shape here as a sort of a compositional element. I do that in a lot of my works. I think it's one of my tropes. I like to put a big shape on the right edge to kind of keep the eye in the composition. Unless it's a comic book panel, then of course you want the eye to flow. Also on the figure, these lumps, one of the things he does, he has a lot of these sort of lumpy, flowy shapes in the bushes back here and stuff, and in the figure. But something that I think about a lot, that I'm probably am guilty of doing, that I'm trying to be more conscious of in my own work, is when they have this repetitious forms. The overall gesture is kind of a rhythm, but each one is unique and has its own personality. And so I think I'm going to zoom in and draw this shrub here. Background. Always have to try to exercise all of the artistic muscles, and one of the artistic muscles that's really important is sort of the critical eye. I'm just going to do a few of these. See if I can glean anything. All right, so I think what I'm seeing, at least on this first one, and I'm drawing it way bigger than my pencils now. Okay, doesn't matter. So I'm going to guess that we got these small shapes here, and then they kind of, as they crest over the top, kind of like a wave, they get bigger. And I'm going to guess that that is compositionally intentional, kind of move you down this way into the main part, down towards the I'm just gonna call it a deer, unless you know what it's called. The animal kind of push you down. So another beautiful thing is these negative shapes, like this shape and these shapes. They go so well together. And I feel like he does this throughout. And crochet is the internet. So this is probably the least trustworthy place you can find. Don't believe anything I say about Dr. Seuss. Yeah, Point, you're right. It's all about these negative shapes. Even copy it. Oh, you like the music track? Let's see. This is Another Day by J Folk, O-L-K, on Chill Hop. he's really, really good at these rhythms. So we have the kind of wrinkles here. And I don't know if that's the some kind of an eyebrow or just another set of forehead wrinkles. We've got these wrinkles, and then we've got the shape here. And then this the eye flips it, and the little U's here for the eye. These little U's, we've got these wrinkles here. We've got his nostrils, which are the same as the eyes. And also, more of this, it's the same but different, right? He's got these U nostrils, but then he only does the bottom line on one of them. We've got all this kind of rhythmic similarity in this shape, and then just kind of break it. And again, I'm not sure, but I wonder if he leaves this one off and only uses this one as a compositional element, bring us back down this way. I wonder if that's the case. Might just be reading into it too much. But trying to move the eye down back through, keeping this little U under only the left nostril might be a way of doing that. And then these 3 lines, and jowl. And like rhythmic, but also unique. Each one with its own kind of characteristic. I start with wacky lines and figure out the rest later. Interesting. I wonder what he means by that, Crochet. He weights his compositions. Yeah, his compositions are almost everything is going on in the bottom left. Like if we drew a line across the composition this way, pretty much everything is happening down here, but the direction the eyes are looking and the kind of how different the horns are. And then we've got the color of these birds. Don't appear anywhere else. Maybe a little bit in the flowers. Draw some squiggles and wacky shapes, turn them into characters. You think he forgot the other U on the nostril? So just draw some. I think he must do that for his characters, but I cannot imagine that's how he composed this. But could be wrong. Wacky is French for intricate composition. Yeah, it's balance out with value and color. That's right. So I want to do some swatches of these. And so he's got so much variation in his color, so I'm just going to take kind of an average. But like within this, there's oranges, yellows, and he's got some of that green reflected up from the bottom. About right. At least that looks right on my screen. The birds got this kind of pink. Looks like a straight out of the tube yellow. curves and angles, body and legs. Have shape, variation, rhythm, and variation. And negative space. Now, to keep Crochet satisfied, over here. Okay. 3 values. 3 values in this. Dichotomous but functionally successful use of the cool yellow as a secondary focal point. Yeah. So there's two focal points in here, right? I think it's the face here and then the 2 birds up top. And the eyes looking up at the birds, and the birds' tail feathers and beaks pointing back down kind of give, you can kind of bounce between them. So let's see. Have 3 tones to my eye. I don't know, Crochet, if you see otherwise, but to me, the 3 tones are the background, the foliage, and then the figures, the 3 figures. I'm gonna go with 3 tone. Background, foliage, and figure. 3. And I think it's interesting. Those colors, the kind of pink and the yellow, only appearing up at the very top where there's nothing else, just the 2 small figures. Whereas all this other compositional stuff is kind of moving you through, and then we get this point of rest, right? Because even like the figure of the deer is seemingly in action, right? Like he's kind of, even though he's standing still, he looks very dynamic, like he's moving. But then these 2 birds are a bit more static, and so we have that kind of more, that splash of the yellow and the red up there. Let's see, what did you say, Crochet? Dichotomous but functionally successful use of cool yellow as a secondary focal point. I'm not gonna write all that down, but I've got it here, my swatches. And later on, I'll should have left more room. I'm gonna tape these into my sketchbook. So anybody have anything they want to say about this piece before we move on? Any other comments? And actually, you know what? I just noticed one more thing that I want to draw before I move on. That is this shape. The back legs. There's a black shape between the back legs and the foliage. I'm gonna put that in here. Right here. Just roughly. This. This shape is, it's really wonderful. I feel like if this shape was sort of rotated or twisted or something, it could be another leg. That's very interesting. Yeah, so for somebody whose his work is so whimsical, I don't know. His shape design and his composition does not feel whimsical to me at all. I mean, it feels whimsical looking at it, but it feels very much intentional. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Let's do this one next. Yeah, whimsical look, technical execution, exactly. This one is similar but different. Of course, it's the same series. So on this one, he has... on the first one, he had that bottom edge that was defined by the shape of the foliage. On this one, all of his edges are solid, but bottom right edge has that kind of negative shape where the water comes up. What a great observation. Hastily writes down brush up on shapes. Yes. I'm going to put shape design here. Why did the turtles have to have such long legs? That's a good question. He uses a lot of recurring themes that are almost signatures of his. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the sign of, I think, an artist sort of exploring a language, right? Like, he has a visual language that he uses in different ways. Try to communicate different things and figure things out, I think. And I think most artists have that. I would say that you have that point in your work. I think I do in mine. In my woodcuts, at least, there's a lot of recurring imagery and themes. And I think that can be useful, right? Trying to think about the same thing in different ways. So right off the bat, I'm noticing in the bottom left-hand corner, this kind of wave shape that comes up here is of a similar size to this shape here. And these are kind of diagonally opposite. I think that has to be a compositional element as well, an intentionally designed one. Although, again, when you're interpreting somebody else's art, it is none of this is absolute truth, right? This is the interpretation. This is what you kind of get out of it. But I would bet that was intentional. Long socks. The long socks came first. They got the socks and then they decided they needed to stretch their legs out. You mess around with the boundaries brazenly? You mean the boundaries of shape, or the boundaries of taste? I always end up having to readjust my my border. Traditional composition. Good. So this is interesting. So the furthest foreground elements here are these really subtle things, which is something that I do not do well. If I put something, usually the thing that's in the most foreground for me is quite obvious. But here it's just these three flowers and this little tuft of grass. And that little tuft of grass, I think if you took that out, the composition would be a lot weaker. Not slightly weaker. I think that's a really important element. And it's, aside from the background, it might be the darkest thing in this composition. That's interesting. And like I said before, the in this one, it's squared off, but it's also open in this corner. This the shape of the water. These crazy swirls. And that's the only place he's using color lines, I think. I think his lines are all black, except in the water. That is an interesting choice. And again, as in his first one, he has this strong vertical shape on the right edge of his composition. And this kind of pointing back in. So if you come in and around through this, you get down to the bottom right corner where most people, I think, will exit the composition somewhere in the bottom right corner. This brings you right back up, points you over, and connects in with the feet of the creature here. And it looks like this is too big. His antler design in this one is different from the previous one, and I think this twisting of this hat tail or whatever here is another one of those rhythms with the kind of twisting shape of his antlers. The stronger your instinctive sense of value gets, the more you can create depth with color. The way I do it in relief prints usually involves line weight and variation. It's often not enough. Yeah, for me, like working black and white for most of my career, thinking of value as a function of color is definitely not a deep-seated sort of part of my creative process, but it's something I've been working on. Been trying to think about it more. Just thinking about color theory in general. I'm making this way too big. My problem is I'm getting into the detail, and this needs to be easy shapes. Yeah, the red acetate is really helpful. Has been really helpful. So we have turtles here. Got these birds here. These guys here. Oh, and the fish. Oh, interesting. So, his fish have kind of a twisting movement. Like if you look at the bigger fish, it's easier to see, but the smaller fish has it too. The fish is kind of twisting from the tail into the front. I think it's another rhythm with the hat tail and the horns. Oh, this is a solicited crochet. Heavily solicited. Remember, I invited anybody who wants to contribute, chat to contribute. So once again, I'll say, please, if anybody has any, is noticing anything about this as we go, do tell. I'm gonna put in that black again. You didn't notice half this stuff. I didn't notice half this stuff either until I started drawing it, and that's the real benefit to drawing from these. That's when you start to pick it up. You can stare at it all day long, but actually making the marks really beneficial, I think. He has 2 of each animal, and each one is almost identical. But I bet that there are some little differences. So let's try to draw these birds. Let's see. Did I pick any Horton Hears a Who pieces? I know these are all from the After Dark series, as requested by Point. Oh, Horton Hears a Who was inspired by his After Dark series. Interesting. Okay. The ones I chose, you can look up at the slideshow. I'll flip through them real quick. That one, the one we just did here. And then the next 3 are all kind of similar to one another, I think. So I would group the first 2 together and the second 3, together. I will challenge viciously the lack of color theory in institutions of higher learning. Very good. I support that. Color theory is important. Although it's a pain. We had to do, in school, we had to do all they were called Albers studies. I think it's Joseph Albers. One of the kind of fathers of color theory. We would have to cut. We had these boxes of called color aid paper, and it was basically a box of color swatches, like every color in existence at the time. And we would have to make these things where like you make your thing, but then there's a top to it that flaps down, and it has maybe a hole here and a hole here on a hinge. It flaps over, and underneath it you would have one color here, different color here, and then when you close the hinge on the top of it, we would have one color here and one color here. And when you put it, when it was open, it was obvious that these 2 colors are different. But when you flop it down, these 2 colors would look the same, because whatever color you chose to put on top would affect it in such a way that it would make it look the same. But then you flip it open, and they would be obviously different. And we had to do like 10 variations of this. It was horrible, but it was really eye-opening. But man, it was tedious. And we got graded not only on our ability to create the illusion, but also on our craft. So we would use X-Acto knives, and like we would have, when we would cut the color aid paper, we would have to, you would put on duotone or something on the back. Not duotone, whatever the sticky paper is. And then when you cut it, you have to cut at an angle so that you don't see any of the sticky stuff hanging out from behind the paper, and very carefully. Presentation was important. Man, that sucked. It was the hardest class I took in school. For my school, it was a big part of the first year, and it was a big part of the painting classes. Okay, so thinking about the similarities and differences between these. The posture's the same. The eye is the same. Flap is the same. Same. A little more detail. Swing. I think the main difference between these ones is shape, tail feathers. interesting. So I guess that he was going for more similar repetition. Because his turtles looks like they're in the same pose. And yeah. All right, so that's interesting. Because in his kind of foliage, talking about earlier, there's a lot of variation, even though it looks kind of similar, all of these. But it looks like his animals in this one are basically all in the same position. Small changes. The tail on the deer creature, those are different. And then, of course, his little squirrel guys are more of a mirror than a repetition. But his fish are the same, too. Let's see. The water droplets above his fish kind of mimic the shape of his foliage as well. That kind of grassy hill. That's interesting. Also interesting, all of his animals are framed, all their heads. So the deer, the big one is framed by the black background. The little one is framed perfectly. The head is framed perfectly by the body of the bigger one. All the squirrel, birds, turtles are all framed clearly by the background. And the little fish is too. The only one that's not is the big fish. That's it's kind of another interesting subtle variation. All of the rhythms, all the heads of all the animals perfectly framed by what's behind them, except that one fish, his head is chopped in half by the dividing line between the water and the hill. You studied everything you get your eyes on, still try to. Retirement is not proving easy. Hey, you'd think it was more time to learn stuff. You learn or become a lesson others learn from. Wow. Wow. Powerful point. Sleep lurk time. Hope you don't miss much. Great stream and lovely company. Oh, you're gonna miss the best part, Crochet. The best part's coming up. I'm busting out this red again. Let me see. I say this is another E4 tones. Yeah. I think four major. You know what? I'm thinking 5 because that water is white. I'm gonna say 5 tones. You got any opinions on that one, Crochet, before you go to bed? You notice he doesn't do outlines as much as frame the subjects with black backgrounds. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Like the background itself is the outline. 5, stop reading your mind. Well, there we go. 5 tones. Have framed figures. Twisting forms with the fish, horns, and cattail. Let's watch this one. I'm gonna say this is the same, kind of the same, similar, a bit more yellow. Use the yellow part. This green, it's the previous piece. The green was more of a blue-green. This is more of a yellow-green. After dark in the park. All right, final thoughts on this piece before I move on. Let me see. I like the he's kind of broken this up into 3 big zones There's the at least to my eye, there's three big zones. There's the top section here above the flowy vine where the birds and the squirrels are. There's that middle chunk, the turtles and the deer. And then there's the bottom section where the fish are. And they're roughly the same size. The middle one is a bit bigger. And that negative shape again of that middle section really mimics the hill and the sort of flow of this vine here. So that's quite nice. This one, I'm not sure, I don't remember when these were made, but to me, this one looks like a proto version of the other two. What do you guys think? To me, it looks like this one was made first, and then this one and this one were both made after. I feel like these ones are a little bit more refined, but that could also just be the material, because these two are ink and watercolor, and this one here is with colored pencil. So it could just be that, but to me, this one feels more like he's working out some of the language. But again, that might just be reading the wrong thing into it. But I'm gonna do this one next. So again, the first thing I notice is he does that the right-hand side of the composition with this very strong vertical, which I approve of. So similar shape language with the curves and the negative space. I would love to be able to ask him about whether his strong shape design was something that he just intuitively did, or if it's something he had to work on. There's some artists, like I think every artist has the things that intuitively kind of innately make sense to them. And then there's the stuff that they really work on and practice and work hard at and develop. I wonder. When it comes to things like shape design, I think some people just got it. So these two long trees in the top left corner. This is a rhythm with the waterfall here. And also these two trees here. I think there's a reflection, and that also, at least to me, this produces a bit of the depth. So this is a sort of a smaller, shorter version of this waterfall, and this is also further back. This is further front. So even though the width is the same, I think the length of it, the height, to me makes these reeds smaller and makes this waterfall reed bigger, or it makes them read further and the waterfall read closer. I'll go with that. And one interesting thing I noticed about this when I first looked at it was there's three figures here that are not immediately recognized. But once again, let me see. He frames them all with a minimal overlap. This, I don't know, cat or whatever has a little bit of a tangent actually where his head touches the formation behind him. But each figure is kind of framed And I think compositionally, it's a surprise, and I wonder if that was intentional too. So for me, we've got this sun, these radiating lines, and so as usual, I come into a composition from the top left, and I'm immediately thrown by these rays here back up. So instead of coming down, this is so powerful, it pushes me out up to the right, up to the top here where this waterfall is. And my eye follows the waterfall straight down to this circle here. And then I follow this path back into the composition to the left. And that's when I first noticed these three figures here. So it's kind of, it's kind of a surprise, which is pretty fun. It's compositions where you gotta interact with it to fully grasp it. So that's really, that's wonderful. And it's like making your figures such a subtle, small part of this composition. Usually the figures are supposed to be the focal point, right? And maybe they are a kind of a focal point, but they're a subtle one that you gotta work at to discover. Pink Tuft Small Beast in Night Landscape is 1960. The Stag is 1960. Park After Dark says 1927. What's the title of this one here? I'm not sure, Emma. You're talking about these two. Sorry, this one and this one here. This one here from the website, I think this is circa 1960 on the one on the screen. And then the one I'm drawing right now says 30s and 40s. And then you say that Park After Dark, this is 1927. Very interesting. This one seems, it must be the medium. This one just looks looks older. Dr. Seuss Architecture Environment Design gives you, yeah, absolutely, Potato Knight. Absolutely, you get MC Escher vibes, especially from this one and this one. This is really Eschery, these two, but this one as well. Thanks for finding that, Emma. So again, the background is black, in between the sunburst. I'm gonna say 5 tones on this one. Black of the background, the shadowed foreground side of these rocks, and then the shadowed mid-ground side of these mountains. And we have the light part along the edge and on the top of the surface here. And then we have the white around the sun and in the water. Surprise. Figures. And I think the trees, waterfall, rhythm. That one. And then I'll write shape design again. That should just be, got a big here. That's the big thing. Not much in this to sort of zoom in on and draw. This is more of overall gestalt, I guess. And as for swatching, I'm not gonna bother to swatch this one either because I feel like the I don't know, something about the color design. I feel like he uses more of the whole the whole crayon box in this one with the water and the sun. So we'll skip the swatches. We'll go with I'll make a note down here for this and the other ones. This is Escher Landscapes. So I'm gonna take one last look at this before moving on, and of course if anybody in chat has anything to add to this one. think in the next two we're going to see more of this strong vertical along the right edge of the composition. I think this is a bona fide Dr. Seuss compositional trope. Also, all of these I think are for sale as prints from the Dr. Seuss. I assume the Dr. Seuss estate. So if you're into these, they're looks like signed and numbered, limited edition of 850, collected, authorized estate edition. Yeah, this is some MC Escher looking architecture for sure. The big main shapes here first, and maybe refine them. So the thing I'm noticing first is this big background shape doesn't touch the left edge of the composition. And actually, nothing touches the left edge of the composition. I thought the bottom left foreground shape did, but it actually there's just a little gap, like about that big, just barely. So nothing is touching that left shape, and nothing, except maybe those background mountains, nothing is touching that right shape either. So this is a really vertical kind of, it's such an open feeling space, and yet it's squished in composition. That's very interesting. What's my favorite Dr. Seuss movie or character adaptation? I don't have one, actually. My experience with Dr. Seuss was almost entirely when I used to be a teacher. I was so I'm in Taiwan, and when I first moved here, I taught English, and a bunch of the schools would use Dr. Seuss books to do phonics. So my main connection with Dr. Seuss has been just that. So the reason I'm doing this study is because this is Point of Fable's favorite artist. So Point redeemed, have a channel points redemption for artist study, and you get to choose the artist. So Point chose Dr. Seuss as the artist to study today, and I'm really glad he did, because I would have never taken such a close look at these otherwise. And as always, every time you do an artist study of any artist who's worth anything, and even a lot of artists who aren't, you learn all kinds of things that you never would have thought of before. So I'm picking up a lot from this that I'm gonna be chewing on for the next while. Nicola G38, thank you for the follow and welcome. So this is really exciting for me. And it reminds me, so I try to do artist studies every now and again as just a matter of my own practice. I'm always choosing, of course, artists that like speak to me, you know, ones that I sort of inclined to appreciate. And this reminds me that I study more artists that I'm not immediately drawn to. I turn and face the strange, Bowie says. I feel like I could spend a couple of years just studying his shape design. I think that was what Point identified at the beginning today, which is use of negative space. All kinds of crazy stuff going on in the middle here. the main gist of it. There's more rhythm now, I'm noticing. There are a lot of these small vertical slats of negative space moving at the very top in the middle. They're all in the middle. At the very top in the middle is the background vertical slats. And then in the center of the composition, in the midground, there's a vertical slats sort of to the left of the flowy ears of the creature there. And then in the very bottom, in the foreground, there's a couple of these vertical slats. So that's another a depth cue. So it's a rhythm appearing in the background, the midground, and the foreground, moving us in and out this way of the composition. We have these circles on the top right. It's from like the volcano or something. Little loops. These are also depth indicator. They get larger as they come forward. So a lot of this little minutia in here I'm gonna leave out. I'm gonna get into the weeds too much. That this one is called Small Beast in a Night Landscape. So this one, the palette, I guess that's interesting. So looking at it on my screen, it looks more orange, but he describes it as pink tuft. So this for the body. Right, flamingo type pink with a bit of yellow mixed in. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I used that kind of orange and mixed in some of the pink. I stupidly didn't leave much room between here for my title. And it's a really long title. So also with this one, I'm noticing that all of his forms have a smooth edge. All the architectural forms. So then there's only two things in the composition that I'm noticing that don't have a smooth edge. One is the pink tuft beast, and the other one is in the very bottom, just to the left of the center, almost perfectly framed in that negative space. There's like a tree shape, and I think it's the only one in the whole composition. And it's the only thing aside from the beast that's not smooth. And that's got to be another one of those compositional rhythms, I think, the visual rhythm. Kind of, otherwise the pink tuft beast would be the only thing of that nature. And it would change the composition if that was not there. But I'm not sure how important that is. It's really subtle. It's dark. It's kind of framed by the background, by the negative space, but not exactly. Let's see. It's in a triangle shaped. It's coming out of a triangle. Out of a triangle shaped space. Are there any other triangles? So a lot of the negative spaces are rounded. All the passageways in the architecture are rounded, except for those vertical slats that I was talking about earlier. Those are all rectangle. We got those circles in the back right. Not seeing any other triangles. Anybody see any other triangles? That might be the only one. Interesting. Truffula tuft. That sounds delicious. Sounds like a kind of a mushroom. If you're harvesting Truffula tufts, you gotta look out for the mustached orange guy that speaks for the trees. Oh no, now I don't want them anymore. The stairs on the very left of the art is also very jagged to give a balance in a triangle. Let's see. The stairs to the left of the form. Yeah, that is true. That's sort of an inorganic jagged versus the organic jagged of the tree thing. Yeah. And then we have the stairs in the top background as well. Let me write these down. We have smooth flowing forms, have circles, and then we have the vertical flats was background, midground, foreground. Then we have the organic jagged edges of the figure and the tree. And there's the artificial jagged of the stairs and the triangle tree pot, I guess you can call it. So the stairs probably go with the beast in the tree. The stairs are probably Ursa. Ha 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 ha. Here we go. Stay with me now. We have the architectural forms. Smooth. We have the creature. Textured. And we have the stairs as the passage, the visual intermediary between jagged and smooth, which is also the function of stairs, to bring you from one place to another. So it's a metaphorical, visual intermediary. Whoa. Or I've been looking at these Dr. Seuss things for almost 2 hours now. My eyes are starting to get weird. Could be that. Could be either or. It's a pitfall, but also a fun thing when you do these studies and you start looking for stuff. Probably oftentimes find things that were not intentional, but also make sense and are interesting. And the reason I'm doing this, not only to find out the secrets of Dr. Seuss, but also to get inspired, right? And to think about different ideas and to think about things in a different way. So I'm going to go ahead, and thank you, Ursa. I'm going to go ahead and decide that for me, in this piece, the stairs are the visual and metaphorical passageway between the tuft creature and the architecture. So, there we go. Whoa. The original Lorax movie's on YouTube. All right. Well, if you don't get enough Dr. Seuss from me today, you can watch the Lorax movie. The other three stairs make a triangle as well. Other three stairs. The ones like in the very center of the composition, you mean? Above the mid-ground vertical slats? Or do you mean the back left? There's a triangle. Those back left ones, that's a triangle. Yeah. There's. All right, we got one more. Let's do one more. Anybody got any further comments on this? Good insight, Ursa. Thank you for the contribution. So many of his negative shapes, I feel like you could just take a positive shape, flip it upside down, and plug it in. It would almost fit. Something about the negative shape behind the pink tuft beast, behind the neck, under the ear, that shape in there. Actually, and now it looks like a cat. To draw that. I mean, it almost looks like you could take the, I don't know, face and kind of fit it in. But you can't, but it feels like it. Huh. All right. Front left, the middle of the piece stairs, and the stairs kind of hidden behind everything on the left. The stairs in the background that are hidden, it's a total triangle. In the front left stairs, a lot of jagged stuff. I wonder how you're supposed to climb up those stairs and then up onto that ledge without falling through that hole. Yep, you did go to school for this. That's why it's good. Good to have your insights. Also, don't have to go to school to be able to do this kind of thing. But like I said at the beginning, it's a muscle. Looking at art and talking about it this way, it's a thing you got to exercise. And it's really, really important for anybody who's trying to improve their work. This kind of thing is essential. This is such a helpful exercise. Cannot stress that enough. Do this from time to time. Really important. There's a lot of crisscross patterns and three major shape patterns that he's going on. Yeah. Hard to explain these two things. No, I think you're right. There's a lot of crisscrossing going on with the movement. And I think the three major shapes would be the rounded forms, the vertical slats, and now that you mention it, the minor aspect, the sidekick shape, I think would be the triangle. Right. One more piece. Okay. Once again, the right-hand side of his composition. It's a little more subtle, but also a little bit less subtle. There's a stripe all the way down the right. Almost nothing breaks the right edge of the composition. Only this light form, the kind of floor that the creature's standing on, that breaks up that right side. But aside from that, it's a very strong kind of line going down. Got these verticals. And then we have this architectural piece in the foreground that is also pushing you in. So that whole right, I don't know, fourth, not quite a third, between a third and a fourth. What's between a third and a fourth? A 4.5. Would it be a 3.5? Anyway, that whole edge of the composition, I feel like, exists to keep you in the left edge of the composition. Oh, the right 7/24. Thank you, Potato Knight. Obviously, that's what I was going for. 7/24. You feel comfortable now because there's math? Oh. And now I'm suddenly shaken. I can't do it anymore. Okay, my very first thing from drawing this that I didn't notice until I started drawing. This little shape, this flying buttress, bottom right corner. It's wonderful. I want to draw that nicer. Just making sure you don't leave the composition. pushing you in. I don't know what all you were talking about for 20 minutes, but I heard a math problem. Great. That's why we need you here, Potato Knight. Whenever math rears its ugly head, there's got to be a certain brand of chivalry that involves math. Here, in this strong shape, strong line. Looks like he's doing things in threes in this one. All right, so let's see. There's three circles coming out of that volcano. There's 3 lips on the gutter where the waterfall is coming out of. What else do we have for 3s? 3 rounded objects going up the stairs. Yeah, that's right. And just like in the other one, the previous one, he's got like one plant that I feel like it keeps the animal company. Okay, so then there's this shape. Thinking about his shape design still. One plant, one animal, and the liquid flowing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yes, absolutely right. That is a 3, and I hadn't thought about the liquid in that way, but you're totally right. Kind of 3 organic things versus all of the architectural stuff, and the architectural stuff has a very flowy, organic nature to it, but it is also very much, very clearly different. I noticed in the previous one and in this one, I like how he does the these rings. They're all at different angles. There's more of that rhythm with variation within it. Get the rhythm of the circles, but also not in a boring way. Change it up. His architecture is basically a fluid. That's right. Run out of space here on the side. That's okay. This shape, this black shape, is the important part. This edge, I think. Another black shape here. Does a good job framing the head of the beast back. Of course, leading the eye, the focal point. These big black shapes that kind of funnel in from big at the top to narrow at the bottom. Funnel us down. The water falling brings us down. We have this one circle of white. White water coming down here. Brings us to the focal point. Stairs move us from the entry of the composition down through. And again, this big form holding us from going off the right edge. And the little flying buttress. So I was looking at all of his works, and I think the composition that I like the most is this composition. I feel like it's they're all quite sophisticated. This one I think maybe is the most. Although the one with the other waterfall piece with the 3 figures in it, really like that as well. It's such a surprise. Drew a lot of curves into everything so you wouldn't have to worry about perspective quite so much. Yeah, that's a good way. But of course, you can tell that he knows his perspective because everything is pretty grounded in my eye. This one here composition is super strong as well. Stag, plant, water. We have threes. Stag, the plant, the water. The O's. And what was the third one I said? There was another one, I think. Oh, the gutter. And we also have framing. We have the white of the water as a focal point. This is another five-tone piece. That is sort of relevant to all of these. I'm going to say water as metaphor for architecture. I think see a lot of artists use that. I think Bridgman uses architecture as a metaphor for the figure. I think Michelangelo uses fire as a metaphor for the figure. People using kind of elements of nature to think about how to describe, how to draw certain things. I think that the palette is pretty similar in these, so I'm not going to do another swatch for this. Am I going to make a piece based on what I've learned from this work? I'm going to try to take what I have learned and incorporate it into my general practice. So hopefully, Ursa, I will be making every piece in the future based on what I've learned from his work. So that's, that's like the artist style, right? Pick the things that you like or the things that you learned. You take what's important or what speaks to you. You roll it in, fold it into your own art, and it becomes different from where you got it, and it becomes more your own that way. So, final thoughts on Dr. Seuss After Dark. Shape design is key for his work, and shape design is probably the most important thing that I'll take away from this, but also composition and within shape design, I think rhythm. So for these artist studies, I'll probably do them differently in the future if anybody redeems this again. Depending on the artist, I'll do it differently. So for me, for Dr. Seuss and these pieces, when I was looking at them, the main thing for me was to do the compositional breakdowns and to see what I could learn from doing this. I think that this is the strong suit, and this is the thing in these works that speaks to me the most. His drawing technique, the way he lays down a line, is not something that excites me quite as much as these other elements. So going in and copying him line for line is not something I'm gonna do. If we were doing, like when I do the Guptill rendering in pen and ink studies, a lot of those, it's like how does the artist lay down their hatching, right? That to me is beneficial in those ones. But for these ones, the only thing that I think I would potentially want to copy would be how he lays in his watercolor in the body of the deer in this piece here on screen. That variation within the body of watercolor, I think, is a superb technique. But it's more about the character of the shapes, I think, I want to take away from this. So So yeah, so that's that. Oh boy, that is exhausting. I'm ready for bed, and it's only noon. I need more coffee.